Hi, I'm Jim Lake. Over the last several months I've been taking video at night of the night sky over the top of my house. Generally what I do is just point an infrared camera at the sky and then let it run for as many hours of the night as I can. Now the sky at night is full of objects that we normally don't either see or pay much attention to, but most of them are satellites, airplanes, birds, bugs, natural objects. However, there are also a class of objects that are not easy to identify, and one of those objects is what I call a slow mover. A slow mover is an unknown object that appears as a luminous object about the size of a bright star that appears suddenly from within the background of stars at night, moves very slowly a relatively short distance, and then disappears again. These objects are generally visible for several seconds, sometimes to as much as a few minutes. But they move at a speed which is much lower than what an object would have to move if it was in a low Earth orbit. Now, I've covered that topic previously in this video, and I encourage you to watch it if you haven't. In this video I'm going to show you 4 separate appearances that these objects have made, all of them in different locations in the sky on different nights at different times and along different trajectories. Now, sometimes those different trajectories are actually in opposite directions, which is something that an object in orbit simply can't do. People have suggested several possible explanations for these objects, including meteors plunging directly at the camera, or abandoned rocket boosters in elongated orbits that rotate slowly and therefore appear as flashing objects. All those explanations are for rare, one-of-a-kind occurrences, but what I'm seeing is regular. Now, of course, the most obvious explanation for these objects is that they are satellites in orbit around the Earth, artificial satellites, that is, communication satellites, this, that, and the other thing, Starlink satellites, and that they're simply appearing at odd times in their orbit, and I happen to be catching them as they make their way around. And in order to eliminate that as a possibility, I've actually compared these objects with Stellarium, which is a planetarium software for the PC, which includes a database of all known satellites which are orbiting the Earth, artificial satellites that is, and they can be plotted on Stellarium, and I have actually looked at the sky in Stellarium during the periods of time that these objects appear to check whether or not there is a known satellite that would appear in the sky at that location, and in all cases there are not. So I'm not saying that there's no possibility that these objects are an artificial satellite, but I am saying that according to Stellarium, they're not a known artificial satellite. I don't know what it is, but I'm convinced it's not in Earth orbit. It appears to be a physical object which is in a slow, silent, mostly invisible hover in the sky over the top of my house, and it becomes visible only for short periods of time, perhaps by something as simple as turning a light on and off.
The first example I'll show you comes from July 21st of this year, and it'll appear in the upper right-hand corner over the top of the green arrow that you see there right now. The object appears for about 10 or 15 seconds, and it slides along on the trajectory shown by the green arrow and then eventually disappears. The same thing happens here again on July 24th. And here once again you'll see the object appear on basically out of the background stars, appears, grows very bright, moves very slowly for a short distance, and then disappears about the same way it appeared. And gone. Now here's an example of a slow mover that's moving on an opposite direction trajectory. It appears for just a few seconds and disappears. Notice that this object is moving somewhat faster than the others, and it's also moving in a generally eastward direction, where the others were moving generally westward. And finally, this is a clip that I previously published, which I called Triangles over Tacoma, because this object does appear to be a triangle. It appears from nowhere against the stars, but unlike the others, which turned on and then stayed illuminated for several seconds, this one flashes, and it flashes regularly. You can see it's inside the red circle there, moving very slowly along the path of the green arrow. And it continues along that path, flashing approximately every 2.8 seconds with a quick flash that happens. The total duration of the flash is about 0.15 seconds. At times, this object does appear very triangular. Some people have hypothesized that the triangular appearance is a lens defect that may be causing a light which would otherwise appear to be round to appear as somewhat distorted. And that may well be the case. It doesn't make much difference. The strange aspect of this object is that it's moving very, very slowly, much too slowly to be in orbit, and it continues to flash that regular flash rate every 2.8 seconds for a grand total of 192 seconds, which is the amount of time that it is visible in the sky.